Amber Rose. If y'all don't know Amber Rose.
Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, or straight. It's all love.
That person you just heard right there is Amber Rose. The one who just said, whether you're black, white, gay, straight, whatever, Donald Trump doesn't care. That's Amber Rose. Now, what's interesting about Amber Rose, by the way, let me take a step back. Amber Rose is a very well-known public figure. She's a model. She's an actress. She is a reality TV star. She once dated Kanye West, which I don't like to define women by who they dated, but that's in a lot of ways, that's how people kind of came to know her more. I happen to like Amber Rose a great deal. I think she's a really cool person. She's from Philadelphia. I know Amber Rose not well. It's not like we're not like besties, but we're cool. You know, I have opportunity to speak to her from time to time. I actually genuinely like her as a person, and have nothing but respect for her as a person. So this isn't about bashing Amber. This is about sort of wondering why the Republican Party would make a decision on a night where they want to show that part of their vision of everyday Americans is black people to include Amber Rose. Now, again, Amber Rose, very talented, very interesting young woman, or not young woman anymore. I mean, she's a young woman, but you know, I don't want to infantilize her. She's my age. We're all grown. What did the Republican Party see in her? And then I looked on the stage and I looked in the audience, and they said Amber Rose, rapper and influencer. Amber Rose, to my knowledge, has never written one rap, has never spit one rap. She's never promoted one rap. She's never been on one rap song, but they call her a rapper. Is that just a small mistake? You don't really make small mistakes at the RNC. I do think it was a mistake. I don't think it's some deep conspiracy. I just don't think they put much effort into figuring out who black people are. It feels like they just treat black people as if they're interchangeable. That concerns me. That concerns me for Amber Rose's sake. That concerns me for Amber Rose's sake. So they bring Amber Rose on. Oh, and the other piece of that, of course, is, well, why Amber Rose? Why would they bring Amber Rose on? And I think the answer, sadly, and this is no disrespect to Amber Rose, is there aren't a lot of celebrities who will come on stage and support Donald Trump. Now, some people will say it's because they believe in Trump, but it's bad for business. Hollywood is controlled by the liberals, and you know, there's no safe space for people to say what they really mean. And the people who showed up are courageous. That's one way to read it. But I gotta say, I don't think that's the answer. I just don't think that they know where to look. And they also, when they do look in the right place, I don't think there are that many of us who want to be there. And so they got Amber Rose as part of an agenda to pull black people in. But I don't think, and again, this is not a diss to Amber Rose at all, I just don't think that Amber Rose is a game changer. I don't think very many people are game changers, but I don't think Amber Rose makes black people vote differently. I don't think she makes the average black person turn on the TV and watch the RNC, and I don't think she makes the average person who's going to vote one way vote the other. And no single person does it. I don't want to put that burden on Amber Rose, but I'm saying she ain't even in that conversation. Similarly, you know, anyway, you know what? I'm gonna let Amber speak for herself. I want you to hear her words.
Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, or straight. It's all love. And that's when it hit me. These are my people. This is where I belong.
I'm always curious about that too. Amber is a black woman. Some people on the internet were saying she's not. She's absolutely a black woman. She's biracial. Her father's white, and she likes to acknowledge that part too. But Amber is a black woman. So what makes a black person say, I belong here? MAGA is where I belong. That's a tough argument. But if you make that argument, I think Amber Rose has to also she has to speak back to the concerns we have. She told this wonderful story about how, her dad said he wasn't racist. Her dad's a military guy. Trump's not racist. She said he is, and she went out to prove it. And when she came back, she realized he wasn't when she did her own research. But then you got to answer why he still wants Central Park 5 arrested and in jail, and why he hasn't apologized for his actions. You got to ask why he has a legacy of housing and racial discrimination. You got to ask about the things he said about Mexicans across the border. You got to ask about what he said about Judge Curiel and him not being able to be impartial because he's Mexican. You got to ask why in Charlottesville he said there are good people on both sides. You got to ask why he would be supporting people who support anti-Semitism and white supremacy. You got to ask why he called the continent of Africa and other places around the global South shithole countries. You got to ask these things. And if you're going to go to the RNC, and say that he's not racist, you got to give me some answers as to why. But Amber Rose didn't do that. And that's a hell of a burden to put on Amber Rose. I'm not saying Amber Rose has to do that. I'm just saying Amber Rose has to do it if she shows up and tells me he's not racist. That's all I'm saying. But she didn't do that. Instead, she said something else.
F told me to hate Trump, and even worse, to hate the other side, the people who support him. When you cut through the lies, you realize the truth. American families were better when Donald Trump was president.
That's a hell of a talking point. But I got to ask myself, you got to ask yourself, what was the economy like under Obama? What change did Trump make to make the economy better than Obama's economy, or did he inherit the economy of Obama? Every president wants to take credit for unemployment dropping. Nobody wants to take blame for unemployment rising. Again, I don't hold Amber Rose accountable for having a sophisticated knowledge of domestic economic policy. That's not her job. That's not the job of any of the celebrities, not just the black ones, not just the women, not just the celebrity. There are very few people who have that knowledge, and they have to come up there and make the case when they do. So I don't want to hold Amber Rose to an unfair standard. But again, if you're going to come up there under the premise of saying, look, I'm going to pull my people toward the Republican Party, you better tell me where them black jobs are. You got to tell me about black unemployment. You got to tell me about black schools. You got to tell me about black neighborhoods. You got to explain to me why this matters. Otherwise, it's not a persuasive argument. But they're not looking for persuasive arguments at the RNC. They're looking at a very superficial analysis of black people. They're basically saying that if you are black and you see a black person in this place, you will make a different choice because we can be easily twisted and persuaded. And the truth is, Amber Rose found a black job. Maybe. That's actually a good joke. Justin Ahmed or Amir said RNC jumped over mad black scholars and put Amber up there. It says a lot. I'm not sure that they actually jumped over black scholars. I don't know the black scholars that would show up. Was Thomas Sowell? I mean, what black scholars want to show up? She said, how is she different than Tim Scott? If he's a coon, why isn't she? I don't like to call anybody a coon, but here's my answer to your question, Robin. And I'd love to hear y'all opinion. Right in, is Amber Rose no different to you all than Tim Scott or whomever? My answer to you is, I've spoken to Amber Rose off the record or on the record. I don't want to disclose our conversation, but I'll say in general, I think she believes this. I think she genuinely believes that Donald Trump is the right choice. I think she absolutely 100% has bought into this. Now, I think she's wrong, obviously, but I think she's sincere. I never go after black people for being wrong. I go after black people for being cynical and for going somewhere because the line is short and they don't actually believe it. Or I go after people who may or may not believe it, but go to extravagant lengths to degrade themselves in support of this cause. So when I watch Tim Scott smiling and skinning and grinning and saying, I love you, Mr. Trump, that to me is too far, whether he believes it or not. But when Gifted Hands, what's his name? Ben Carson steps up and says he supports Trump. I don't call Ben Carson a coon. I don't think Ben Carson's coon. I just think he's wrong. So that's what I'm saying. So for me, it's not about like I'm holding Amber to a lower or higher standard. I think she's being sincere, and I criticize her at the level of argument. But with people like Tim Scott, I don't criticize them at the level of, or Byron Donalds, I don't criticize them at the level of argument because I think they're full of shit. I think that fundamentally is the difference. Rolando says something very important here. Van Jones sang her praises on CNN. He even looked a little terrified. Well, I don't know if he was terrified or not. I can't speak to that. But I can tell you that what Van Jones said is that she gave, quote, the most effective speech of day one. And she was the, quote, most dangerous for Democrats. Van Jones, my brother, I disagree with you. I feel like I'm always disagreeing with you now, Van, but I think you're wrong. This was not dangerous. Black people today weren't like changing their mind because they saw Amber Rose. Not at all. Not even a little bit. Yeah. Other people weighing in on the question of, you know, again, like, I don't think she's a grifter like Candace. Wanda said, you too nice to the dumb women, Professor. Pamela said, nope, she's no different than Tim Scott mass mission. After my research, I mean, she's behaving ridiculously and, well, dangerously when you consider the consequences. Perhaps, you know, I see it differently. And maybe because I've had the benefit of some dialogue with her, I actually think that she's wrong, obviously, but I think that she's sincere. And I think that she does have a responsibility to have a different position. But I hold people to different, I read people differently based on whether I think they're just shucking and jiving for a job, skinning and grinning for attention, or whether they actually believe the stuff that they say. And this is something that people have been telling me my whole life. Mark, you're being much too kind, showing unmerited grace. What else can we give each other than unmerited grace? Because ain't that what we all want? Ain't that what we all deserve? Ain't that what we all ask for? Ain't all grace on some level unmerited? I don't know. Maybe that's just a human thing.